What up, ladies and sinners? Welcome to another Tuesday evening edition of the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. This is IE Vegas. We talk all things Vegas sports here. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. You can get at me on my Twitter, at Cale_Henderson. You guys can get at us on the Sin City Sports Twitter page, at SinCity_IESR, where we talk all things Vegas sports. Honestly, all things sports in general. It's free game, but we primarily focus on Vegas, the Sin City. You know how it is, the fastest growing sports market in America. You folks heard it here first a couple years ago when we started the show. Actually, it was a little over a year ago. We said straight up, especially because Vegas hadn't really started playing in Vegas yet. We straight up said this was going to be the fastest growing sports market in America. And I truly believe it. I truly believe that it's on its way. Major League Baseball, just around the corner. That's still getting decided. Need a little bit of public funding to get that totally kicked off and finalized. But for the most part, I don't foresee anything changing there. I think the A's likely end up in Vegas. Golden Knights on a tear, advancing to round 2, and they did it with ease, winning their series 4-1 against the Winnipeg Jets. Winnipeg Jets did the best they could, but the Golden Knights are just that good. Mark Stone's returns big. They did a great job. Goaltenders did a great job. Scored a lot of goals, for that matter. And Vegas was just live, man. Lively. T-Mobile Arena was nuts. Like it always is. You can always trust them Vegas Golden Knight fans. That's for sure. Before we get into the show, we got to talk about our platform. Shout out to our platform, IE Sports Radio. For the last 8 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and with your help, we are ready to take the next step. When you go to our website, iesportsradio.com, you'll see our Patreon link with 5 different tiers. The first one starting at just $5 a month. This donation gets you shout-outs on all 32 of our shows. Higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to our podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment. Thank you all very much for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome back, folks. This is IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. We're going to dive right into it. We have the Vegas Golden Knights we got to touch base on. They were the leaders in the West, clinched home playoff or home ice, if you will, with 111 points. Had an excellent first round against the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, it honestly couldn't have gone better other than maybe one win, but it is what it is. It happens. It was game 1. Jets got the advantage. I think Golden Knights were on a bit of a lag. Sometimes it happens, but it was 4 straight from there, and Golden Knights never looked back. I mean, it was that easy for them. Golden Knights look so dominant against the Winnipeg Jets, but they do have a tough test because the Edmonton Oilers, which were riding into the playoffs, or skating, I should say, into the playoffs with a 9-game win streak, finished the season with 109 points, so a game back from Vegas. Very close, and it's a tough team. You know, Draisaitl, the great Connor McDavid, the legend Connor McDavid. It's a tall task, man, in a 7-game series, and you hope that Vegas gets off to a fast start in Vegas, because I think that's going to be the difference. I don't know if Vegas can survive, losing game 1 like they did against the Winnipeg Jets and expect to win out from there. I just don't see it. I don't see it. I'm not trying to be mean. Oilers are just that damn good. The one thing when you talk to Adam Karnick, he's 100% correct about, the Oilers just can't seem to get their goalie situation figured out. It's been in flux most of the year, but it's incredible that they've had a fluctuating goalie situation and they still finished with 109 points. That just goes to tell you how talented their front line and their defensive men are. I mean, it's that simple. Their point differential was still better than Vegas's at 65 goals. I mean, it was incredible. Can't fault them. I think the Oilers are a tough test. I truly do. I talked with Adam Karnick a little bit, who is the host of the Neutral Zone on IE Sports Radio. He and I had a small conversation about it yesterday via Twitter or via Band. It's going to be tough, but I truly believe that the Oilers are going to bring it to the Golden Knights. I still think the Golden Knights win the series. I hope they win the series as a Vegas um, influencer, if you will, a sports personality representing Vegas, but the Oilers aren't going to be easy. Adam chimes in. Good evening, Kale. Ready for the Golden Knights and Oilers? Yes, that's tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. So that'd be 7 p.m. Central or 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'm sure. And those first two games will revolve around the Vegas Golden Knights and their home fans on home ice in the T-Mobile Arena starting tomorrow. Um, Adam, you're in the chat, man. I mean, give me your thoughts, dude. What do you? First off, congratulations on winning the mock draft this year, the IE Sports Radio mock draft. Great job. Um, Secondly, congratulations to your Chicago Bears. They didn't screw anything up. I mean, they actually had a pretty decent draft. It wasn't amazing, but they had a decent draft. I think Ryan Pohl's got guys he really likes, which is important. Next, what are your thoughts, man? Like, how important is it for Vegas to win the first two games? I think it's really important. I think for them to go into Edmonton and a two game lead is huge. I might be crazy. 1-1 might not be good enough against this Edmonton team, which scores a lot of goals. Uh, Adam said soon to be the home of the Vegas A's. That'd be super cool. Major League Baseball's got to figure that out. But I think the A's are really hoping that Vegas steps up and gives them close to $500 million in public money. They're hoping to get, I mean, a quarter less than what the Raiders got. But the Raiders are a different breed. I mean, they're a much more popular team. I don't know if the A's are going to get $500 million. I guess it just depends on how bad Vegas wants Major League Baseball in Vegas, but we'll find out. That's what's holding things up right now. The A's are finalizing a 49-acre purchase of land off of the Strip, where I assume they're going to build the ballpark, which they've pledged $1 billion to, but it's going to cost roughly $1.5 billion for the entire project and relocation. So yeah, they're hoping for some help, and maybe it happens. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. If I'm Vegas, I'm not forking over $500 million. That's just my opinion. I don't think the A's are worth $500 million. They're barely worth $1 billion for that matter in the long term. It would be nice because in baseball it's slightly different. The richer the franchise, the better the team usually is. The A's, the Oakland A's, have been an anomaly for years because of their money ball with Billy Beane and the way that they run they manage their franchise or their Major League Baseball team. But if I'm Vegas, they're not even near the value that the Raiders bring on a week-to-week basis. Now, maybe for the span of the entirety of the Major League Baseball season, they could bring in more money, more tourists for Vegas than what the Raiders can, but they're not going to make Vegas as much money. I just don't see it. I really don't. I just don't see it. So we'll see what happens. But $500 million is the reason why that deal has not been finalized yet. And the A's are hoping for some public money. I think the A's might end up having to meet them halfway on that. Maybe fork over another $225 million if they can. We'll see how that happens. Sorry, another $250 million if they can. We'll see how that happens. Maybe an investor steps in that isn't, the Vegas funds for that matter. But yeah, we'll see how that goes, Adam. Adam also says, yeah, home ice has not been an advantage in these playoffs. 32-18 record for the road teams these playoffs. Yeah, kind of weird, but also the way the NHL's played this year, I don't know, that's not surprising to me. Also, what's crazy, how the hell do the Bruins lose in the first round? And that President's Cup trophy curse thing is real. You can't convince me otherwise. This is 10 straight years where the President's Cup winner has not made the finals. The President's Cup winner has not won the Stanley Cup. I don't know, man. I think that curse is real. The Bruins had maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, 135 points. Is that an NHL record for points scored in a single season? 65 wins, 12 losses, 5 overtime losses. That's incredible. Like, and how do you lose? I don't know. It's crazy to me. Great for the Panthers. What an upset. They played hard, man. They earned it. They earned that second round bid. Talking about the second round, I think that the playoffs, the way that NHL is set up their playoffs because I know that they want ratings and they're fighting for ratings with the NFL draft and all that other jazz. Major League Baseball starting up soon. I think that the way that they seed their playoffs is absolutely stupid. Like, if you're the number one team in your conference, you should be playing the worst team of the winner each round. I don't understand why that changes for NHL. It's dumb. The Vegas Golden Knights should be playing the wild card that won over the weekend. Not a joke. I think the Vegas Golden Knights should be playing who the Stars are playing. That's my opinion. I could be wrong, but I personally think the Vegas Golden Knights should be playing the Kraken. They were one of the wild card teams. They ended up squeaking in the first round. I mean, they did a great job in the first round. But they ended up squeaking it out. In my opinion, they should be playing the Golden Knights. Because I put it like this. What in the hell is the point of winning your conference and getting home ice if you're not going to have the advantage in every series? What is the point for 82 games? So that you can get up not as bad of a matchup in the first round only? No. That's horrible. In no other sport does that happen. In no other sport. So NHL wants to be different. It's probably why it's the fourth favorite sport in the country right now. I mean, there's many reasons. It's more of a Canadian sport, but still. I don't know. I just don't like the way the seating is. Maybe it's because I'm a Vegas. I cover Vegas, and I want them to have the easiest road to the possible Stanley Cup as possible. The Oilers is not an encouraging. The Oilers are not an encouraging opponent by any means. They're really good, and shutting down Connor McDavid and Draisaitl is not going to be easy. But I just don't like the playoffs the way they're set up in the NHL. I think it's stupid. That's just my opinion. The hockey enthusiasts probably don't agree with me. That's perfectly fine. I promise you, I bet you Edmonton would rather play. I don't know. I bet you Edmonton would rather play a different team than the Golden Knights as well. In this particular situation, I bet you Edmonton would rather be playing the Stars. Stars are a good team, though. Honestly, there's not that much difference between the way the Stars play and the Oilers play. I think the Stars are an excellent team. They actually have a better point differential this year, so they put up goals. Won 6 straight going into the playoffs. I mean, it's a good situation for them, for sure. The West was just so tight. Like, the Bruins just ran away from the East. Maple Leafs were a really good hockey team, and it's just nuts to me that they finished with 111 points, which would be tied for the lead in the West, and they're the, third best team? Fourth best team in the East, according to playoff points. That's crazy to me. 111 points is a lot of points in a season. I don't know. A lot to be said. But I personally thought that, with the Bruins alive at the point, the East was the strongest conference. I think we're coming to find out that the Western Conference is just that competitive. Like, they're that good. And I think that bodes well for a Golden Knights team which is getting healthy at the right time. What was their problem last year? Injuries. It's why they placed fourth. Their stars were injured for half the season. That has not been the case this year. They've gotten lucky. And then Jack Eichel's played like a man possessed this season, which is great. It's amazing. It's what you want. Golden Knights goalie stepped up. If he doesn't play very well, you have an experienced Jonathan Quick to step in at any time. I love the Golden Knights situation. I just don't like their opponent, the Edmonton Oilers. It's so tough. Connor McDavid's a legend already. He really is. He's an amazing hockey player. Like, some people say he's the second coming of Gretzky. I think if you stack the two up, yes, Gretzky one more. He's the great one, but dude, I mean, McDavid, man. I think he's nose to nose. It's tough to say otherwise, and maybe it's part of being a part of this generation. I grew up the Sid the Kid and Alex Ovey rivalry was one of the greatest things you'd seen in sports. It was amazing. Sid the Kid has the edge, obviously, because of championships, but that was an amazing rivalry over the last decade. I would love to see Connor McDavid get a rival like that. I haven't seen one yet. Maybe we're going to see something here. Maybe we're going to see a McDavid-Eichel rivalry brewing for years to come now, since both of them have a really good spot where they're at. I don't know. I like Connor McDavid a lot. I respect his game. I think Leon Draisaitl is one of the more underrated players in all of the NHL. He isn't talked about enough. What's scary is when the two of them are on the same line and they're clicking. But it's kind of what a luxury they have to be able to put them on separate lines and it just work for seasons on end. I think that's amazing. So that's going to be a heck of a matchup, man. That's going to be a heck of a matchup starting tomorrow night in the T-Mobile Arena, 7 p.m. So apologies, 8:30 tomorrow. So we're thinking what, 6:30 Pacific Standard Time at the T-Mobile Arena. It's going to be a hell of a game. Hell of a game. NHL playoffs is some of the best thing that you could see. It's some of the best stuff that you can watch, you can witness, and I find it like I have conversations with people on a daily basis. Like, do you like to watch the NHL playoffs? Everybody says yes. They have a hard time watching it the remainder of the year. Actually, I had a few guys on the football staff that I coach on say that they start tuning into hockey right after the All-Star break because that's when all these guys really start to play. And they're not wrong. There was quite a few runs made after that All-Star. Trades, they helped. I don't know. NHL's exciting, man. And I'm really excited for the Golden Knights. Vegas Golden Knights they're kicking ass, and I truly believe that they'll win this round, but at what cost? And Dallas and Seattle are no joke, man. Man, I love watching. So first off, I got to give a shout out to Seattle fans. That goal, that game-winning goal in overtime, I think it was game 4 to tie the series up 2-2. The crowd rocking, so much so that the cameras were shaking when they were focusing in on what was going on, was absolutely incredible. Seattle is nuts. Seattle hockey fans are nuts. That was so cool to watch. They're in their second season, and they're kicking ass and taking names. The expansion rules for the NHL have definitely worked in the favor of the Golden Knights and the Seattle Kraken over the last 5 years, because these two teams are absolutely buzzing. They're competitive. I'm not going to count Seattle out. I just think the Dallas Stars are a really, really good hockey team. So more to come. We'll have some coverage over the Twitter sphere tomorrow. There will be live updates as goals are scored because I will be watching that game on a Wednesday evening while eating my homemade chicken burritos that I'm trying to eat to do my whole meal prepping, and I'm trying to slim down a bit, guys. And the best way I can do it is eat foods that I can enjoy, but meal prep, because for whatever reason, meal prepping helps with the portion size, portion control. Got to keep that up. But yeah, I'll be having a chicken burrito while watching the Golden Knights hopefully beat the Edmonton Oilers in the T-Mobile Arena tomorrow night. We're going to go to break when we play some drops from our favorite co-hosts here on IE Sports Radio. When we get back, we're going to dive straight into what's coming to Vegas. It's going to be a segment that we're going to make a regular thing here on IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, where we talk about the events that are coming up, especially focused around boxing and UFC, because it seems as though they are a regular offender when it comes to putting on excellent events and combative events for the local casinos, for that matter, and arenas. So when we get back, we'll dive into that here on the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
college football? And do you want to hear a college football show dedicated to all that is college football, including junior college, and the CCCAA, and the NJCAA, the NAIA, and the NCAA, including Division III, Division II, Division I AA in the FCS, and Division I Single A in the FBS? Well then look no further. Join myself, Larry B., and my colleagues, Mr. H-Town Blake Henley, and Mr. Christian Espinoza, each week during the college football season for the latest in college football on 3 and Out College Edition, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Everybody, this is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Welcome back, ladies and sinners, to a second half of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. You guys can catch us every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Central Time, on any Spreaker podcast player, iHeartRadio, Spotify. We're live. Like, review our show, listen to our show, give us some feedback. This is the show where we cover all things Vegas sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. Get at me on our Twitters, at SinCity_IESR, at Cale_Henderson, where we talk all things Vegas sports. And honestly, on my personal, I talk all things sports in general. Maybe some video games from time to time, because I'm a bit bitter with a specific video game that can't seem to listen to its fans. But I digress, right? I digress. Big things coming. I finally have a plan in place to talk game film this upcoming season. So we're hoping to add some content, maybe some whiteboard content, some videos that we can put in on the TikTok. I know that Larry B's big on that because it gives us more involvement and it makes it easier to market this show. So like I said, guys, liking this show is free. Following this show is free. Following our Twitter pages is free. And turning on those notifications is free. I'm not here to ask for money. Just help me market the show because it's a great show. And we have a lot of really good things coming up, right? Because this is Vegas. This is IE Vegas. There's always something going on, the fastest growing sports market in America. Give it to us. Again, you guys can catch us on Spreaker Podcast Player, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and a number of others. But we're always ready to go here on IE Sports Radio. You guys know how it is. New segment. We're going to talk about what's coming to Vegas. And when I say what's coming to Vegas, we're going to start with boxing. Why not? I love boxing. It's like one of the greatest sports, combat sports ever. What a technically unbelievable sport and mentality you have to have. By the way, congratulations to Gervonta Davis for defeating Ryan Garcia. It was 7th round knockout. That was absolutely fantastic. Gervonta Davis is there's a reason why they call him Tank Davis. That dude hits like a tank. I picked Ryan Garcia in our band thing just because I thought Ryan was just going to be too fast. But when I looked at Tank and I saw some of the workouts he put in, like the videos, the dude was smacking a heavy bag for an hour. That was his conditioning. An hour. He was hitting a heavy bag at a specific pace that is almost incredible when you think about it. When you guys get a chance, look at his heavy bag workout. They watched him like, and yeah, I get it, man. That could be a cut, right? They could have cut in and said, oh, you've been doing this for an hour, but, showed us the last 2 minutes. I don't believe it, man. When you watch the way he fought, those hands were strong. They were fast. Garcia's the longer fighter. He struggled. I mean, it is what it is. Like, boxing's just so much fun to watch, and Tank Davis just put on a display, man. Coming up, at the Cosmopolitan, we got Puello versus Romero. That should be fun to watch. That's May 13th. Top Rank Boxing, so that's Premier Boxing Champions. Top Rank Boxing will have Haney versus Lomachenko. That's May 20th, 2023. That'll be at the MGM Grand. And then July 8th, I guess we'll go to the UFC while we're at it. Two big events coming in the UFC to Vegas within the next couple months, for that matter. ESPN Plus is going to show Pennington Aldana 2. Perfect. That'll be in Las Vegas, Nevada, UFC Apex. So that would be their fight facility. They do a great job there. They got some stands there, something they built during COVID, something they can fill up and get people involved in. Fight night, Kara France against Albazi. That'll be on June 3rd. That'll be an ESPN Plus or ESPN package. Unfortunately, Nunez and Pena 3 won't be in Vegas. I wish we could see that, man. That'd be absolutely awesome to watch. But do not fret. June 17th, we will see Vettori versus Kenan Ye. I'm guessing that's a French fighter. That'll be in Las Vegas. That'll be at the UFC Apex Arena. But the big one, I guess we can talk about Hunter Strickland and Magomedov. That'll be on July 1st at the UFC Apex Arena. But the big one coming July 8th, UFC 290. That'll be on pay-per-view, ABC, ESPN Plus. I'm sure that's ABC pay-per-view is what they mean. That starts at 5 p.m. But the main event, I may be wrong, but I'm pretty positive the main event is going to be John Jones and Stipe Miocic for the heavyweight title. That, I believe, is pretty much confirmed as of right now. Everything's confirmed. There's no camp injuries, nothing like that. July, that's a big Vegas event at the T-Mobile Arena on July 8th. I think that's going to be a ton of fun. Down the pike, we got the Las Vegas Lady Aces will start up their season again. We have the Ramblers that are still playing their volleyball season. Lots of events going on in Vegas, and we want to make sure that this stays a regular segment. So what's happening in Vegas or what's coming to Vegas will be that new segment that we're going to new segment. You guys know how it rolls. So yeah, you guys catch those events, man. Boxing and UFC, a heavy amount over the next couple months or through July. We should have a ton to watch when it comes to combat sports. Getting to the meat and potatoes, as always, of our show, where we review and we talk about, man, the Las Vegas Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders had their draft last weekend. Actually, all 32 teams, with the exception, all 32 teams had a draft last weekend. 31 teams participated in round one. There were 31 picks made because the Dolphins are losers and tried to, coerce an older Tom Brady to come to their team, which they got penalized for. But yeah, 32 teams had a draft this weekend. And, I mean, there's a lot of grades to be handed out, but I'm going to focus on the Vegas Raiders. What do I got to say? Let's see. Las Vegas. You can tell that there's a plan. I am not afraid to say this, guys, after looking at this draft. I think picks 1 and 2, which we'll go over here in a minute, I think they'll be immediate contributors. They're excellent athletes. I know if you guys were looking at the Twitter, I was a bit sour after that round 1 pick. And here's why. It's not because of the pick, because I think the athlete has a ton of upside. He looks like a freak of nature. And as long as he continues to develop and improve and keep the heat off of Max Crosby, the kid's going to eat. He's going to absolutely eat. The problem is he's probably going to have to sit by Chandler Jones for half a season unless Chandler Jones wakes up, and then all of a sudden we're looking at a rotational pass rusher that you picked at number 7. Now, that's not a bad thing, by the way. It's not a bad thing. It'll give our number 1 draft pick time to develop. The number 1 overall player in this draft from a grades perspective was Jalen Carter since the end of the national championship game. And before that, Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, Daniel Jeremiah, Bucky Brooks, they all had Jalen Carter, the number 1 player in the 2023 NFL Draft. Yes, some things came out about him that made you question what the guy's thoughts and motives and does he love football, the overweight situation, the driving incident, which, unfortunately 2 lives were lost. It came to be a couple misdemeanors for the guy, so, police obviously felt that this wasn't something that he completely impacted. Look, and it's still ongoing, by the way. Nothing's been completely resolved on that point of view. So I get it. Some teams were like, I don't know if I want to risk that. You're the Raiders. You've been crap for 20 years. And it's hilarious to me, the people that are defending the Raiders for this. Again, I don't have a problem with their pick, which we will go over here in a second. I have a problem with the fact that the Raiders think that they're too good to pick the best available player in the draft at number 7. When a lot of people thought this guy could go 4 or 5, you know what I mean? Like, he could have very well been a number 1 overall pick. If a team felt like he was that good and didn't have the trouble, there was a possibility some teams were thinking he's going to be the number 1 overall pick. No joke. Not by the Panthers, not after they traded up, but beforehand for sure. The reality is Jalen Carter was the best player in this draft. Best. He had the best tape, best grades. He competed the best. He had the best grades against the toughest teams. The last 2 games, he absolutely dominated those 2 games. And the Raiders passed on him at 7. They put their nose in the air. So there's the naysayers out there that say, well, he's got a checkered past, man. Like, the Raiders are worried about that. Okay, fine. The Raiders can be worried about that. I can buy that. Here's where I think that's BS. Absolute BS. A team that wins games on a regular basis, that's won a Super Bowl within the last 10 years, who has a loaded football team, who was the NFC representative for the Super Bowl last year, evidently didn't think that what he had going on was that bad. In their mind, they don't think that Jalen Carter is going to get charged with anything serious and that he'll be available to play this upcoming season, because they were willing to trade up a spot and give away some draft assets to get him. The Philadelphia Eagles had the best draft, period, in the NFL. Best draft. A++, man. Well, A+. You get what I'm saying. They had the best draft by far. And I don't even really know if it's close. But it's because of the value. Howie Roseman seems to always, and I get it, there's some reports out there that NFL GMs are completely annoyed the fact that Howie Roseman is getting such great reviews and he's getting heralded for having, he's being heralded for having such an excellent draft. Dude, he landed the best player on the draft board, period, at number 9. Number 9. And then he landed a freak athlete at almost 6'3", 240 pounds, the fastest defensive end we've seen in a combine, most explosive defensive end we've seen in a combine. The guy at 240-some pounds is jumping 11 feet in the broad jump, which tells me he's really fast twitch and he's explosive. He was probably the 3rd best pass rusher in this draft, and he could end up being better than that on that Eagles defensive line that's going to absolutely shine with all of the players they have. Listen to and I get this is a Vegas show. I'm just trying to tell you guys the value. Vegas passed on the best player in the draft at number 7. The 2nd best team in the NFL didn't think Jalen Carter was a problem and drafted him. It's the mindsets, man. And I swear that's something that plagued the Raiders last year. In my opinion, I think this Raiders brass, this front office, just thinks they're smarter than everybody else. And it's arrogance, and it sucks because you shouldn't be allowed to feel that way when you're 6-11. You shouldn't be allowed to feel that way when you as the GM put together a roster that lost 7 games with a 2-score lead. You shouldn't be allowed to feel that way when you as the head coach, which is heralded to be an absolute offensive genius, football genius, your team as the head coach, your team blew 7 leads, 7 2-score leads last year. You win 4 of those 7 games and you're in the playoffs. They lost 4 or 5 games last year by a combined 16 points. That's bad coaching. Yeah, some of it's on the players, but when it's habitual, that means there's something going on at practice, there's something going on in the meeting rooms that isn't getting fixed by the coaches. Because at the end of the day, you are getting paid millions of dollars to teach guys how to play the game of football. Show them the right way to do things. And if one particular thing is happening consistently, that's bad coaching. But a 9-year franchise quarterback gets the rap for that, right? I'll digress on that situation. I'm just trying to be real with you guys. The mindset that we're talking about, that we're promoting. One team, which has been absolute dog crap for 20 years, with the exception of 2 seasons, thought it would be okay to pass on a guy because of risk. When another team who's won a Super Bowl in the last 10 years was the NFC representative in the Super Bowl last year, completely dominant, probably should have won that game if it wasn't for a fumble by their quarterback that was taken back for a touchdown. They didn't seem to think it was that big of a risk. That's bad talent evaluation. That's bad that's horrible understanding of the board and where you're at. So I get it, man. Maybe they thought Tyree Wilson was the answer long-term for a pass rush. That's great. I can get behind that. He's going to have a rough first year. Khalil Mack had a rough first year. He was dominant towards the end of the season, right? As the team started picking up steam and squeezing out a couple wins, he had 5.5 sacks. The next years after that, he was like double-digit sacks, basically for the next 6 years in his career. Tyree Wilson has that ability too. He's a freak of nature. Tyree Wilson was selected 7th overall. He's about 6'6", 270 pounds. Not a very fast twitch guy, but he's very strong. Got an excellent power move. I think he's got good hands. I think he's going to help set the edge. He's plus, I'd give him a plus grade in the run defense, but he's definitely an excellent pass rusher, and he can still improve. That's the scary part. What's nice is he's probably the Chandler Jones replacement after this season. He's like a carbon copy of Chandler. He really is. Maybe he's not as fast twitch or athletic as Chandler was coming out of the draft, but being realistic, yeah, he looks like a Chandler Jones guy. Like, this is going to allow the Raiders to line Max up in more of a wide 9, and this guy will basically be on the outside shoulder of the end man of the line of scrimmage on the other side, which is what you want from a defensive end in a 4-man front, right? You usually have what they call an SDE, or a strong defensive end. Maybe some people call it a monster back, or a monster. You're the big guy, the defensive end. You're primarily a run stuffing guy. You usually take on the left tackle maybe. But the goal is you don't want to give up anything in the run, and when it's situational, you get penetration back there, man. You collapse the pocket. You take on that left tackle on a consistent basis. Tyree Wilson will be that guy. I have no fear of that. It just might take a couple years because his defense isn't very good still. Even through this draft, this defense is still not very good. But Tyree Wilson picked at number 7. I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with the Tyree Wilson pick. I am trying to reiterate this as loud as possible. There is no issue with the Tyree Wilson pick. It makes sense. If Jalen Carter wasn't available, I would have had no problem with this. But he was available. The best player in the draft was available. That's why I had a problem with this pick. Otherwise, Tyree Wilson's a freak, and the Raiders really needed to focus on the defense. The Raiders had to focus on the defense this draft. I give the Tyree Wilson pick a B+. I think he's got excellent traits. I'm feeling really positive about what he's going to bring to the table. Some people don't, even though it's a bit of a knock on what I said before, because again, I think Jalen Carter shows up and he impacts our defensive line and our defense immediately. I think Tyree's going to need some time to warm up into this. And I also think Chandler Jones is going to teach this guy how to play the defensive end position in today's NFL. I also think Chandler Jones is probably going to feel pushed by this guy because he doesn't want to end his career anytime soon. So 2 things are going to happen. Chandler Jones plays really well, and Tyree is a situational pass rusher, or Chandler Jones doesn't play very well, or it takes him a while to get things going like he did last year, and Tyree is probably your starter at that defensive end position by week 8, week 9. Either's great. I would rather see scenario 1 because you can't have enough pass rushers, for 1. 2, it'll give Tyree more time to get them practice reps in. It'll give Tyree more time to watch Chandler Jones film. Because that's what he's going to be. He's going to be that A prototypical guy. You cannot tell me that Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels didn't see this guy in film and say, man, this guy looks like Chandler. This is the guy I want to bring on the team. And him and Max are going to wreak havoc for years to come, man. Max has got 3 more years on his extension. Those two are absolutely going to wreak havoc. And by the time Tyree gets extended, if he does an excellent job, and the Cleve Farrell, Tyree Wilson comparisons were absolutely garbage. Like, they're not even the same. Tyree was believed to be one of the top 5 players in this draft. Cleve Farrell was never in that realm. Maybe to, some Raiders reporters, I won't name them because they deserve some respect. But maybe some Raiders guys who may or may not have been some IE Sports Raider representatives, they might have said Cleve Farrell should have been the number 4 overall pick. Absolutely false. He was ranked my 25th best player that year in 2019. So at number 4, reach. Tyree Wilson makes all the sense in the world. He was a top 5, top 6 player. The Raiders got him at 7. Again, the only issue I had with that pick was that Jalen Carter was available. Otherwise, I give it a B+, which is better than what we've seen from the Raiders in the first round over the last couple of years. Last year was an anomaly because we only traded for the best wide receiver in the NFL. And I can never be mad at that. I would never be mad at that at all. Makes all the sense in the world to me. So, Tyree Wilson B+. Round 2, the Raiders had to trade up a few spots. But in that trade, they went and got what people thought were the second, some folks thought was the best tight end. I disagree. Dalton Kincaid was by far and away the best tight end in this draft. I think Michael Mayer is the most complete tight end. They're calling him Baby Gronk already. Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame. He's not a speedster. He's not going to create a ton of separation. What he's going to do is be an absolute animal in the blocking. If you watch his film, he's an excellent blocker. If you watch his film, that dude wants to pancake ends, which you don't see from today's tight end very often. Guy has moxie. On top of that, his contested catch rate is crazy. He had an excellent grade. You could argue Michael Mayer was the best tight end in this draft. I wouldn't. I think Dalton Kincaid was. But they were honestly only picked 10 spots away from each other. I think the Raiders did a good job trading up for this guy. They went and got the guy they wanted. I think they still need tight end help. Right now, I think they have 3 or 4 guys on the roster. Because of Mayer's ability, he's a first-round tight end. 100%. He's a first-round graded tight end. And the Raiders got him at what? 34? 35? I mean, dude. Could you ask for a better situation for the Raiders? Stuff we weren't seeing over the last 5 years, right? Under the Mayock-Gruden era. Although I think that coaching staff was a better coaching staff than the one we have now, because of the way they were coaching up those really bad draft picks and contending and getting better. This front office, I honestly don't have a problem with the last couple drafts. I thought last year's draft was really good. Considering you only had 3 through 7, there were some value picks, man, that showed up to play this year that are probably going to develop over the next couple of years. But this draft, picks 1 and 2, Tyree Wilson and Michael Mayer, they're 100% going to produce early. Michael Mayer is going to be a big part of this offense early. O.J. Howard, he's going to help out a little bit more speed, but Michael Mayer is a complete tight end. He can block, he can run routes, he can catch. In today's offense, in this type of offense, he's going to feast, man. Because this run game is going to open up lanes that this guy's never seen. And that's another thing nobody talks about. I still think Dalton Kincaid was the best tight end, but Michael Mayer, if he wasn't double teamed on a consistent basis at Notre Dame like he was, and it was all the time because Notre Dame had nobody else as a threat, Michael Mayer is probably the tight end in spades. Top tight end in spades in this draft. It's just a production thing. He won't be double teamed here. Devontae Adams is going to get double teamed. Right? Devontae Adams is going to suck up a lot of the attention. And that's okay. You'll take that because Michael Mayer is going to be open. Hunter Renfrow is going to be open. Taryn, thanks for joining the show, man. Hope all is well, buddy. Chargers had a pretty decent draft. I did a shout out to the Ramblers earlier, too. Thanks for tuning in, brother. I appreciate you listening in. You're awesome. Got off his PA announcer job. Hardest working guy at IE Sports Radio. I have no problem saying it. He's awesome. Great teammate, too. But Michael Mayer, from a grade perspective, again, a guy I think he's going to show up and he's going to be a contributor early. He doesn't have to. I think O.J. Howard could take some of the reps and keep Michael Mayer from just getting worn out early. I think Michael Mayer is an A. I'd give him an A. So your first 2 picks are arguably an A in this draft. I think the Raiders did an excellent job their first 2 picks. In years past, the issue has 100% been the first 2 rounds of our drafts have just not been productive for the team. As a matter of fact, majority of those guys over the last 5 years aren't even on the roster anymore. That's how bad those first 2 rounds are. This year, I'm not worried about that. I think Tyree Wilson and I think Michael Mayer produce immediately. Where we get into kind of the head-scratching situation. Okay, here's my philosophy, and I'm not a GM. All right? So, disclaimer, I'm not a GM. I'm not an expert. I just love the game of football. I watch a ton of film. All right? I'm a sponge. I love the game of football, and I'm always trying to learn. Even the way we evaluate these players, I'm learning on a year-to-year basis, right? What I'm about to say is this. I believe as a team, as a GM, your first 3 picks, whether it's the first 3 rounds or the 3 picks of this draft, right, of each draft, I think that they should be day 1 contributors, starters, or rotational starters, guys that are going to show up and make a difference. Round 4 and up, that's where I believe teams should start looking at upside, developmental traits. Can we take this guy, plug him in on special teams, he makes a difference there, and then we develop him to be a starter eventually, year 2, year 3. That's how I view the draft should be. First 3 picks, contributors. There can't miss guys. You take safe bets. Rounds 4 through 7, whether there's multiple picks or not, that's where you start drafting the trades. That's where you traits. That's where you start drafting the upside. That's my opinion. So, what I think the Raiders did was not that. I think the first 2 rounds they did that. I think round 3, they were looking at 2 games of production from Byron Young at round 3, pick 70. Does he have potential? Absolutely. Is he going to look pretty good compared to a couple of the defensive linemen we have on our squad? 100%. Is he going to roam free? Does he have upside? Absolutely. But I just don't think that was the round to do it. I think there were defensive linemen, there were linebackers, there were corners available that the Raiders could have gone after. And for that pick, needs, like major needs. This is a need and it's filled, the defensive line. I just think this guy was a bit of a reach. I don't know if he's ready to be a round 3 pick. The Raiders feel comfortable with this, so I'm going to trust it. I'm going to see what happens. This guy could be an absolute monster, and I just get egg on my face after this podcast. I'm just trying to be realistic with you folks. I think rounds 1 through 3 have to be safe picks. Can't miss productive guys. Guys you think you can plug in to your scheme, and day 1, they are contributors, whether it be a rotational guy or whatever. They need to be able to contribute. Rounds 4 and later, development, traits, upside. I'm all about that. Totally get it. Because those guys could be stars on special teams and rotational dudes in the lineup their entire rookie contract if need be. But if their traits are off the charts, if they have potential and you can develop them into starters that get second contracts, it's a W. Big time W in the draft. It's major value. And that's what I think picks rounds 4 through 7 should be. Special team / traits guys, developmental guys, upside guys. Round 3, I think the Raiders kind of reached. I think Byron Young, defensive lineman, Alabama, he had 2 really monster games at the end of the season. Granted, he got healthy. Didn't play in a major game. We didn't see him play against Georgia very well, right? We didn't get to see him play against Georgia in that SEC title game because it was LSU, Georgia. Tough for me to say. The Raiders obviously loved his film. He's a big dude, like 6'3", 294. He's a big dude. He's probably a 3-technique defensive tackle. I don't see him lining up in the nose. I see him lining up inside a tackle or outside shoulder of a guard, maybe inside shoulder of a tackle, maybe even head up on a tackle based on the alignment, right? That's where I see him. Taryn Rodriguez says, getting Michael Mayer was huge, and yes, the Ramblers played the San Diego Wild on Friday and the New Jersey Freedom on Sunday. Go Ramblers. Defending champs. Let's go, baby. So Byron Young, I think is a reach. Trey Tucker out of Cincinnati, wide receiver. Fast, okay route runner. I think this is a game breaker type guy. I don't like him at round 3, pick 100. I think they could have got him later. It's just a head scratcher, man. I just don't get it. This is a trait guy. This is a guy they think on film, this guy's the fastest dude on the film. On film, that's what they're seeing. Maybe he didn't test super well. Maybe he tested in the 4.4s. On film, maybe he's running low 4.3s. And the guy can run under the ball. This could be a field stretcher guy. This could be a guy that you see hitting those quick 5-yard outs and getting out of bounds like the Edelmans and the Welkers did for years. I don't see him having that body type, the thickness, the ability to take on those hits consistently. But Josh McDaniels, I mean, his average target depth last year for Derek Carr was around like 10 yards, which is ridiculous compared to what we used to see in the New England, right? 10 yards was never the average depth in New England. So last year was slightly different. I think that's what they're looking, man. They're trying to push the ball downfield. I don't have a problem with it. I just think Trey Tucker was a reach. Byron Young and Trey Tucker, I give C's. I think that they were traits guys. They're guys that they're hoping they can develop into starters and be contributors day 1. I just don't see it. I really don't. And the Trey Tucker pick honestly kind of puts the writing on the wall to me for Hunter Renfrow. I think he's dealt before the season. I really do. I think he's dealt before the season. Or they help him, be as productive as possible, and maybe towards the trade deadline, Hunter Renfrow's dealt. But yeah, I just don't see with Trey Tucker being added, slot receiver they got in the offseason, pardon me, from New England. All of a sudden his name, I'm having a brain fart. Excuse me, guys. It's not showing up in my head. But in my mind, that's their slot receiver. Trey Tucker's going to be their slot receiver. Yeah. Hunter Renfrow is probably the odd man out moving forward. Truly. Maybe we see a pick soon. Maybe we see a trade soon. They just try and amass more draft picks for next season. This whole draft felt like a foundational draft. It felt like they're trying to build, they're trying to use last year's draft and this year's draft almost as the same one. This is the foundation build. This is that first full off season that this team has had with this regime. This feels like a foundation build big time. Jacorian Bennett out of Maryland. I love this pick, actually. I would give this a B+. I personally think that this guy is a very versatile cornerback. He could play nickel. He could play outside. I think he played really well. Deontay Banks kind of overshadowed him a little bit. I think Jacorian has more upside than Deontay. I truly do. And if he's coached the right way, Jacorian could be an absolute starter from day one and play hard. He doesn't have to. I think the Raiders re-sign Rock Ya-Sin. I think the Raiders lean on Nate Hobbs. I think that Jacorian's just a depth piece that they can use and do whatever they want with him for the next couple of years while he develops kind of the Kayshawn Nixon role, but he's going to be more productive than Kayshawn. And Kayshawn did a really good job, honestly, for when he was asked to play. I actually give Jacorian Bennett a B+. Aiden O'Connell, I'm giving that a B+ too. What a Josh McDaniels quarterback, man. I mean, we talked about it, a few weeks ago when we were talking about quarterbacks. Yes, I thought the Raiders were going to get somebody in round 1. I thought if Will Levis or one of those guys was available, they'd pick him. But I also knew that Aiden O'Connell just looks like a Patriots quarterback. Therefore, he looks like a Raiders quarterback now. He makes quick decisions. He's smart. I think he processes the game really well. Jeff Brom out of Purdue. He's now the Louisville head coach, his alma mater. Jeff Brom asks a lot of his quarterbacks. I think Aiden O'Connell was overshadowed by okay talent. Like, if this man was on Ohio State, like, the dude's lighting up the scoreboard every week because he's that quick with his mind, his processing. Does he have the arm of C.J. Stroud? No. But he's patient, and he knows the game of football, and it's obvious with the way he plays. I give this guy a B+ too. I don't think this is a reach. It's a round 4. They traded up to get him, but he's a round 4 quarterback that could develop into a really solid backup for years to come. And then, what would be great for the Raiders if he turned into a starter in a couple of years, like an amazing starter, like great progression. We'll see what happens, man. I think Josh McDaniels is really going to invest time in this guy. Do I think Josh McDaniels is back in 2024 if they don't win more than 9 games? No. But I think Aiden O'Connell is a good foundational piece to develop, because if he doesn't turn into a starter, guess what? He's probably like a Brian Hoyer. He's going to be a journeyman backup for years to come, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with having a smart guy like that. Christopher Smith, I give him a B+. I do. I give Christopher Smith a B+. He's a decorated Georgia safety. I mean, the guy started for 3 years. He's 5'11". He doesn't have like the big traits you'd see from a safety, but he's well respected. He's got enough speed to play safety. I think he's going to be excellent in the box. I think he's going to be excellent as a free safety in this system. Christopher Smith was a really good pick in round 5. I think it was a value pick, in my opinion. Amari Burney, I think this is just more of a speed guy at linebacker. He's got upside. Again, this is traits. He's like 6'1", 230-ish. I think this is a guy that just flows to the ball, and he does it quickly. Makes a lot of mistakes. Sometimes gets covered up by guards, but I think the Raiders are hoping Rob Ryan can shake that out of him. Rob Ryan, the linebackers coach, can shake that out of him. And then Nesta Jade Silvera, D-tackle, Arizona State, played a bulk of his college at Miami. Big, thick guy they can put in the one technique and let Byron Young and these defensive ends roam. Neil Farrell Jr., Matthew Butler Jr., those guys are really going to have to rotate in and contribute at the 1 and 3 this year, do a better job than they did last year. But I fully expect that going into year 2. I think that this draft, I give it a B. I give it a solid B. I was leaning towards a B+, but those round 3 grades, listen, rounds 1 and 2 carry the bulk of the grade, right? If it was just them two, we'd have an A. Rounds 3 carry a good portion of the grade too, because these are impact guys in my mind. Round 4 through 7, they don't have quite as much impact on the grading for me. So round 3 really killed it. Like you had a B+, you had an A, and you had 2 C's. So where am I getting at? A B. Probably a B, and it kind of evens out from there. I totally think that that's where the Raiders are at. It was a solid draft. It was a great foundational draft. I don't see any problem with this grade. I think that they did what they had to do. I think they did what they could do. They could have done better in round 1, in my opinion. They could have done better in round 3, in my opinion. But the rest of the guys, man, I think they actually landed the draft 4 through 7. Oh, yeah, I think they landed the draft 4 through 7. Round 3 is the only question mark. And that's what's dragging this grade down. You got 2 C's in a row. I hope I'm wrong. I hope those guys turn into A's in 3 years and make me look stupid. But right now, I just have to give you the grade I can give you, guys. I believe there were better players available at the time. We'll see what happens. But overall, I think Dave Ziegler's first 2 drafts have been they've been great. They've been great. We'll cover the UDFA's next show. There's a lot to cover in a short amount of time. I apologize, guys. But you guys know how it is, man. When we get rolling about our Raiders talk, our Vegas Golden Knights talk, things just seem to flow, and the show's just never long enough. As always, folks, tune in every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You guys can listen to us on the Spreaker Podcast Player, iHeartRadio, Spotify for our live shows or review the shows. This is IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. Get at us on our Twitters, at SinCity_IESR, at Cale_Henderson. And as always, folks, thank you so much for tuning in, and love, peace, and hair grease.